Yo, what up guys, I'm Sammy and welcome back to the Soul Drop, and this is my performance review of one of Nike's cheapest basketball shoes, but it's not even available on Nike. It's available on weird or third-party retailers, you know what I mean? I feel like usually people don't really shop on, like Kohl's, you know what I mean? I feel like I think I got this on Kohl's.com. But it retails for 95 bucks, which is the same exact price as the GT Cut Academy. And obviously this is the GT Hustle Academy, which is the budget version of the GT Hustle 3, right? And there is some similar design language for both of the shoes, but yeah, I mean the GT Hustle 3 is what, 190 bucks? This shoe's 95 bucks, so $100 cheaper. They're doing the same thing that they did in the GT Cuts, right? The GT Cut 3 is like 190 bucks, but the GT Cut Academy is 95 bucks, which was an amazing performer. The GT Hustle 3, too much for me, is so much cushion. I already did the full performance review if you guys do want to check it out, but this is the performance video of the budget version of the GT Hustle 3, right? So if you guys do want to cop it, try to leave an affiliate link in the description box, and if you do choose to get this shoe, it does help me out if you buy it from the affiliate link. And as always, thank you guys so much for all the support. Also, it might be in like a product picture underneath this video or like in the corners, but let's get it started off with the tracciones, and we have a very similar traction pattern to the GT Hustle 3 with this kind of like parabola shape, right? Kind of goes around here in the forefoot and also here in the heel. And yeah, the traction is pretty good. If you're playing on a clean court, you have a pretty solid bite. You know, I was very surprised because this shoe is really bad on dust. You know what I mean? So first of all, if you're playing on a clean court, you're gonna be fine, right? You're gonna have an amazing stop, all the good stuff. I really had zero issues when I was playing on some of the cleaner courts when I go to them, right? I go to a couple gyms, and I know where the dirty ones are and I know where the clean ones are, right? So sometimes I go to the cleaner ones to test out the performance, like how good is the bite really on a clean court, right? With no dust. And also I go to the dusty gyms as well to check it out, right? But yeah, clean court, you're gonna be fine. It also has a nice high pitch squeak. It's not super duper loud, but it's kind of loud, right? Of course, that has nothing to do with performance, but it has a nice little squeak, right? But yeah, on a dusty court, when I was going to the dirtier gyms, it was sliding around a good amount, and it wasn't terrible though. As far as like, for example, in the Jordan 39, I slipped out and it was dangerous, and I like kind of hurt my ankle and it kind of strained my Achilles a little bit. I was kind of pissed, you know what I mean? I was like, dude, seriously, you know, I was doing a pretty hard stop and then just slid out, right? But the GT Hustle Academy is a little bit different, right? It doesn't slide out dangerously, but if there is dust present, it just doesn't have a good stop and slides a little bit. You know what I mean? Maybe like a couple of inches or something. But of course, if you are sliding around just a couple of inches, it's still kind of bad. You know what I mean? So if you don't mind that as much, then it's not a huge issue. But again, like it doesn't bite through dust that well. When I was playing on a really dirty court, it was sliding around, and then when I wiped, it wasn't a super hard wipe or anything, but when I did wipe, I had like a couple good stops, but then it would slide around again and pick up dust. So yeah, it was kind of annoying for me because I had to wipe a lot, and when I didn't wipe, it wasn't a good bite. So there is a dust performance, and if you're playing on an outdoor court, you should be fine, right? The rubber is actually pretty dang hard, and also the grooves are kind of thick and deep. And also this shoe is really cheap. It's only 95 bucks. So yeah, outdoor use, you should be fine. So there is the traction there. Moving on to the heel to toe transition. This shoe is very smooth, right? So here in the heel, we got a nice curved shape. And then for the cushion, it's actually fully exposed. So it feels pretty smooth here in the heel. And then coming into the forefoot, we have a nice rocker shape and a good amount of forefoot and midfoot flex. So there's no midfoot shank. I don't know what it is with Nike right now. Like the Jordan 39 doesn't have a midfoot shank plate. Now that's a $200 shoe. And I mean, it's not a prerequisite. You don't need a midfoot shank plate, right? Like not everybody needs really good torsion support, but I don't know, like Nike just isn't adding. I feel like all Chinese companies, they all their shoes have it. You know what I mean? So anyways, torsion support, obviously, look at this. Torsion support obviously is not going to be good. But heel to toe transition is very smooth, right? And now moving on to the cushioning setup. Cushioning setup sucks. The cushion is terrible in the shoe. It's a huge disappointment from the GT Hustle 3, which it has the most cushion that you can get right now in any shoe. So it's just a crazy big disparity. Like it's just so different. You know what I mean? So like for example, the GT Cut Academy actually had a little bit of cushion. It's Renew foam, but it's kind of nice. You know what I mean? There's nice compression in the heel, and then there's a bottom loaded forefoot zoom unit, which isn't super nice, but it's like impact protection is adequate. You know what I mean? But in this shoe, impact protection sucks. Like when you're landing, your entire foot's gonna hurt. My forefoot, when I was landing on the forefoot, it hurt. Heel strike, it hurt even more. One good thing about this cushioning setup though is it's very responsive because it's super stiff. And also another good thing about this cushioning setup is that it's really, really low to the ground, right? You have really good core feel, but you're sacrificing a lot of cushion for that. So yeah, and also underfoot cushion sucks, you know what I mean? So the insole, first of all, is just a regular, really crappy insole. It looks like one of like the insoles that Nike says is like supposed to save the earth, but they're using really crappy recycled materials and they're just slapping it together. That's what it looks like to me, you know? But then underneath that, with the straw board, it's extremely stiff, right? So yeah, I really didn't like playing in this shoe because of that, you know what I mean? And also combining that with like, it was hurting my foot with like usually I don't really mind like a really crappy, very like bendable shoe, but like my foot didn't feel supported in this shoe because of that, which felt kind of weird, you know? I guess the only kind of good thing about the cushioning setup is that there's a little bit of compression here in the heel. I like how they left it exposed, but other than that, it kind of sucks. So there's that. Moving on to the upper. So they're calling this Flyknit, but yeah, I mean, honestly, it's not bad. It's a $95 shoe, so you can't really complain, but it does feel kind of cheap. You know what I mean? Especially with this, it's using like a plastic strands, but like, yeah, and it feels cheap in hand. It feels a little flimsy as well, but on foot, it honestly isn't that bad. You know what I mean? Like, it's thin, it's pretty dang supportive. It's not super duper supportive, but it's pretty supportive, and then it conforms to it very, very well. Right? And then of course around the eyelets we have a really crappy synthetic leather material, kind of goes around the ankle area as well. And here in the heel we have like a mesh material, right, with the foam outside of the shoe, which is why would you do that? And then for the tongue we have pretty minimal padding. It's also an independent tongue, which kind of sucks, you know what I mean? Like, I don't like independent tongues, and I feel like literally every single modern shoe has a half booty construction tongue. It keeps the tongue in place, and also it doesn't fold in on itself when you're putting the shoe on and tightening it up, which is kind of annoying. So in this shoe, you kind of have to like fix the tongue a little bit, which isn't a huge deal. It doesn't really affect performance that much, but you know, it's kind of annoying. You know what I mean? You just need to add a little bit more material and then just glue it into the midsole. And then in the ankle area, there's very minimal padding as well. It doesn't feel super cozy, right? So yeah, it has a very nice minimal feel to it when you have the shoe on foot. And honestly, you don't really notice the material being super cheap, but you definitely notice it a little bit, right? It doesn't feel crazy crappy or anything on foot. But definitely comparing to like other shoes that I, was testing with like this shoe in my rotation, I was just like, yo, this shoe feels extremely cheap, which is weird because the GT Cut Academy didn't feel like this, you know what I mean? So there is the overall upper there. And now moving on to the fit, I went up half a size and this shoe fits me extremely well, right? So I feel like all Nike shoes have been running really short for me. So I've been going up half a size for all their shoes. And this shoe fits me really well going off half a size, right? So lengthwise, my toes go not super close to the edge, but there is a little bit of space. So I do like that because overall, I mean, I feel like if I did go true to size, it might be a little too short, right? And also for the toe box, it's really freaking snug. Like look at how freaking thin and skinny the toe box is. Look at that. You know what I mean? It kind of like dips in for the material a little bit, right? So yeah, it's a really snug fit here in the toe box. And width-wise, I would say it's slightly narrow. So overall, going up half a size was nice for me. But if you do want a really snug fit, then you should be fine going true to size, right? But if you want a little bit looser, you want to be on the safer side of things, I would suggest doing what I did and going up half a size. So overall, it's a pretty nice fit for me. And now moving on to the support and lockdown, not the best, right? So lateral containment is overall pretty good. Like I thought it was gonna be pretty good like in the first impressions, right? Like you can see here in the forefoot and also here in the heel that you have sidewalls with this midsole, right? It's coming up acting in the sidewall, obviously. And then here in the heel, there seems to be an internal TPU heel counter. However, for the lateral containment, first of all, this upper is just not supportive. It's not super supportive. Look at this. So when you're doing hard lateral movements, your foot is gonna hit the side of this. And it's not really like moving out of the footbed per se, right? This foam is doing a pretty good job, kind of, but then like, look at this. You guys see that? Right? So I felt that, and my foot was hitting the foam, hitting that, and just kind of like, it just didn't feel the best for lateral containment. Like, it wasn't terrible, but also wasn't great. So that kind of sucks. Lateral stability was okay. You know what I mean? We do have a little bit of an outrigger, but you were really low to the ground. So lateral stability was pretty good for me. And overall lockdown was good. You know, my foot felt locked into the shoe. I didn't have any heel slippage. So yeah, the lateral containment in the forefoot wasn't great. So there's that. Moving on to the weight of the shoe. Yeah, this shoe is going to be extremely light. Probably one of the, if I remember correctly, it was the lightest basketball shoe, right? Yeah, 8.75 ounces, guys. 8.75 ounces. Let's check the other shoe. 8.8 ounces. So yeah, that is the lightest basketball shoe that you can get right now. Which isn't surprising because budget shoes usually lack tech, and because they lack tech, they're extremely light, and that's literally the shoe. You know what I mean? And I mean, being light is good in some aspects, but they sacrifice a lot to get there. You know what I mean? Like the cushion they sacrifice, the support, and also with the material, especially with the quality, they sacrifice as well. So yeah, even though it does feel like extremely minimal and very, very lightweight on foot, this shoe does not feel super responsive, right? So first of all, like I said, it hurts my feet when I'm playing in it because the cushion sucks. I guess it is responsive because it's stiff, but again, my feet were hurting, right? Also, with the crazy kind of like, it's just not supportive in this way. So I feel like my foot was hurting a little bit more. My foot had to kind of like work to stabilize myself a little bit more compared to other basketball shoes that had a little bit, or actually a lot more support in the actual shoe. Obviously, when you're playing basketball, you want a little bit more support in the shoe, in your foot, right? But when you're kind of like just working out and also trying to strengthen your feet, and also like running and stuff like that, you don't want that. You know, you want this type of shoe where you have a little bit more motion, a little bit more kind of like freedom in your feet. But when you're playing basketball and you're doing crazy stops and cuts and jumping and landing, and you need a lot of impact protection, it's not the best. You know what I mean? So my feet just did not really like playing in the shoe. And usually I don't really care about like cheap materials as much, but like combining everything together, this shoe felt pretty dang cheap on foot. Like, it's just a really crappy feeling shoe on foot for me when I was playing it. You know what I mean? I don't know what it is. It just feels like not supportive and just not good when I'm playing it. I don't know if you went to like one of those like retailers and got a really cheap Nike shoes that's not even on Nike.com, which is this shoe, for like 60, 80 bucks and played in them. But that's what this shoe feels like. You know what I mean? Just really, really cheap. So there's that. Moving on to ventilation. Ventilation's good. You have a lot of airflow to this Flyknit material. It's really thin, so your feet are gonna be overall pretty cool. And aesthetically, I feel like it looks pretty good. I'm not a huge fan of this colorway. There is an all black colorway as well, but there's this really nice like off-white / beige colorway. But also, I really like the overall design of the shoe. I feel like it looks pretty good. So tell us what you guys think of the aesthetics down in the comment section below. So wrapping things up, yeah, don't get the shoe. This shoe sucks. The better option, obviously, just GT Cut Academy. Way better, exact same price. It's also on sale because it's been out for a while. I've seen some colorways go on sale for like 70 bucks, and then plus another 25% off of that for some sales that Nike was having. So insane, right? Yeah, so yeah, it's just, I don't see, this is not a good performer, right? For guards, for big dudes, for anybody. And I just don't get it. It's not a great shoe. So yeah, that about wraps up this performance review. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.